Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey towards embracing your worthiness and creating extraordinary success? I am your host, Allison Lacusier, a certified professional coach, a professional speaker, and a female founder. As a passionate advocate for women's empowerment, I've dedicated my career to helping individuals like you unlock their true potential, cultivate unwavering confidence, and live a life aligned with their deepest desires. With years of experience in the coaching industry, I've witnessed firsthand the incredible transformation that occurs when we tap into our worthiness and step into our power. Throughout this podcast, I'll be your guide, sharing insights, tools, and strategies to help you navigate the path towards unshakable self-confidence and fulfillment. Drawing from my own journey as a successful business owner, I'll provide you with practical advice, actionable steps, and thought-provoking conversations with industry leaders. From overcoming self-doubt to setting and achieving audacious goals, we'll explore a wide range of topics designed to empower you to embrace your worthiness in every step of your life. Through these engaging interviews and solo episodes, I'll share my experiences, lessons learned, and wisdom gained from our remarkable guests who've achieved remarkable success in their respective fields. So if you're ready to leave self-doubt behind, step into your authenticity, and thrive as the empowered woman that you are, then this podcast is for you. It's time to claim your worth, align with your purpose, and manifest the success you desire. I'm thrilled to have you join me on this empowering adventure. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Clearly Worthy podcast. It is Allison Lacusier here, your host, with the amazing, extraordinary Katherine Eitel belt. Welcome to the Clearly Worthy podcast.
Oh, so good to be with you. So good. I can't wait to dive into this today, but thanks for having me.
We have so much to talk about, but I always like to introduce my guests as how I've met you and the impact that you've had on me. And I remember 5-6 years ago, I was sitting in a class in AADOM and I was watching you speak on how to be a speaker and how to get your voice out there and how to create compelling lectures and creating your courses. And I just remember looking at you and thinking, wow, this woman is amazing at what she does. Like, it was just this beautiful moment of seeing somebody in their absolute zone of genius. And since then, you've gone to help me craft speeches. You have inspired me in many of your lectures, and we've remained close. And I'm so excited for us to dive into really understanding self-worth as it relates to speaking. So let's start with, if you want to give your introduction to the people that might not know you yet, or they're getting to know who you are today.
Yeah, well, that's so fun to listen to that story. I don't know if I ever knew that's where that's how we first encountered each other, was at AADOM. So that's nice to hear. But of course, as you said, we've grown a great friendship, and I've so enjoyed working with you. So I come to dentistry like a lot of us. I came into it working in the dental practice first as a chairside assistant, and then ultimately as an administrator. And my career led me into teaching and consulting with another firm. And I eventually broke away and wrote my own program. And so for several decades, I was a full practice management consultant. And then I turned 50. And I think something happens when you hit that sort of mid-century zone and you really begin to see the other half of your life's yardstick getting a little shorter than the first. And you start to make decisions, or at least I know I did, and a lot of my friends did, that we started to say, what about the work I'm doing is my favorite, is the thing that I feel most called to do and that I most enjoy. And so the slice of consulting that I most enjoyed, and that I think was my natural gift, if I have any, it would be communication. And so I decided about 12 years ago to sort of jump off a cliff and see if the world would value and pay for communications coaching only. And it turns out they will. And so that's what we do at LionSpeak now. That's when LionSpeak was rebranded and born. And I like to say that we deliver unscripted, exceptional communications coaching in 3 different lanes. One lane is customer or patient facing. So we still do a bit of telephone skills training and treatment presentation, things like that. But a big piece that we do today is a big demand for leadership, coaching, and communication. So we do a lot of team-facing communication, a lot of team culture, and we train a lot of new managers and owners of small businesses for just communicating clearly and inspirationally to their teams. And then our final one, which we're going to spend some time on today, we describe as audience facing. So it's train the trainer, train the speaker. And again, we like to do that in an unscripted, but really high level, exceptional way. So sort of where we are and what we're known for.
I love the immediate story of worthiness when you decide that, what you're doing it's great. It's just not who you are at your absolute core, and taking that risk, making that decision is not easy. And it takes a whole ton of self-worth, self-confidence to do it. And so let's kind of start there. You help so many people get on stages. And it's funny when we think about like the number one fear in the world, it's getting on stage, it's speaking in front of an audience. And you coach on not just the external piece, like how do we get the presentation gorgeous? Where are your hands? How are your body position? But you coach a lot on that internal piece of how do you have the courage to get on stage? So tell me a little bit about how you help people overcome that fear of standing up there, having an audience looking at them and really being who they can be on that stage.
Mm. It's one of the most favorite things that I do, because there are so many people right now in dentistry that have an expertise, or they have a love, they may love Invisalign, they, like you did, sort of really developed an amazing career through that, really diving deep in one place where you excelled. And so I meet so many people that love the lasers, they love sleep dentistry, they love children and, treating children or elderly patients, or, teledentistry, whatever it is, whatever the piece is that you feel joy in and you love to learn about. There are other people who could benefit from your passion and from your expertise and what you've developed, the ways that you've developed managing it can become your own system. And so that is teachable and needed. And so the number one thing I would say is, even if you said, heck no, I'm never going to be a speaker, I'm never stepping on that stage. Sometimes I think a lot of us let fear rob us of one of the greatest joys, which is to spread our message of expertise to others who could really use it. So I would just say, consider it. Consider all the different ways that you, in this environment today, that you could bring that message to others. A lot of people I coach have speaking, whether it's virtual or in person or a combination of both. It's kind of a side gig. They're still managing an office, or they're still working for a company or working for a practice, but on the side, they take their message out to the world in bigger and bigger ways. So I would say just consider it, number one. And the reason that it's worthy of considering is that there's help to manage your nerves. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that. There's help to get it put together in a really organized fashion and to deliver it with confidence. There's help for you to do that. And also, there are people who will be less if you don't show up and share your knowledge and your expertise. And there are people who will be more. They will benefit greatly from advice that you could give. So in other words, the world needs us. Our industry needs us. There's a lot of us that are starting to get close to retirement, and there is space for new voices. Don't you think, Allison? I think there's,
oh my gosh,
there's space. There's plenty of space for new voices.
Yeah, 100%. And I know that when I started off as I would still consider myself a new voice in the industry. I remember, and I think I actually asked this question to you. I remember thinking, well, I'm not perfect, and I'm not, I'm not like 10 years of experience as a speaker. I'm not, I haven't spoken on these big stages yet. And so why would people listen to me? And why would they, it's definitely that imposter syndrome as you're getting
Sure.
started. And so how do you speak to that?
Yeah. Well, I'm just really I've always just been honest about it. One of the ways that, we do a lot of work in something we call courageous conversations. And
Mhm.
whether that's from the stage or it's one-on-one in an office or it's on the telephone with a patient, they're all in our world, it's all a version of a courageous conversation. And one of the tenets of that is being able to handle pushback. So one of the things that people fear from the stage, and what you're alluding to, is what if someone says, well, who are you to,
Yeah.
you have, you're like new to the bit, I've been doing this for, 30 years and I know better. And I think a lot of us don't step on a stage or don't step in front of a webinar or whatever the opportunity is, because we fear that more experienced people will be on there and that we'll just seem laughable to them.
Mhm.
So one of the tenets of courageous conversations is that we are honest about what we're here to offer and what we're not. And so I always say there are more experienced speakers than me. There are speakers who earn more than me. And I have a method that has been helpful to me. I have a method
Mhm.
that has helped me to organize my thoughts really quickly, to deliver them in a way that people seem to want more of, and that people comment they find inspiring. And so I'm just here today to share what I have learned so far and what has helped me in my journey. That's all I'm offering. I'm not offering the truth or the only truth or the only way. I'm just offering a way that has worked for me. And that's something no one in the audience can argue with. They can't
Mhm.
argue with what has worked for you. And so if you
Mhm.
adopt, if you allow for others to have another opinion and make that okay, and you just have, if you can work on the confidence of all I'm here to share is what I have discovered and has been helpful. I'm not here to say I am the end all be all expert in
Mhm.
this, or that I'm the only one who knows and this is the only way. If you put yourself out there as the only way, the only right way, it's like you put a big bullseye on your forehead and people will
Yeah.
pull out their arrows. They will. But if you never say that, then
Yes.
you don't have the bullseye. And I find it shows up very little in my audiences because I think they either hear directly from me on that or indirectly they sense that that's not what I'm saying. And
Mhm.
so, yeah.
That makes a ton of sense. And I think I think you mentioned this earlier. It's, especially as we dive into like the women that we are trying to be, and really kind of like owning our own worthiness and holding our own kind of self-identity on stage. I know that a lot of women that I work with, and I'm sure that you've seen this as well, we struggle, and I've personally struggled with this. We struggle with, not being liked or not being, accepted. And there can be like this bigger fear of wanting to make sure that we're almost pleasing everyone. But something that you said earlier was that like it doesn't have to be for everyone. And what your message is, it doesn't have to be the message for all the world. It could actually just be a message for a specific group of people that need to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of freeing when you
Mhm.
when you go into it saying, my message is going to land with the people that it needs to land with, and it won't land for those that either aren't ready yet, maybe, or it's not a good fit. I
Mhm.
can't handle helping everyone. Like I don't have the
Yeah.
bandwidth to do that. And so that's not what I'm after. I'm after the little small section of my audiences that will be a really good fit, both in personality, in learning style, and with the techniques that we teach. And so
Mm.
that's all I'm looking for. And that's enough. It's more than enough, actually, for what my goals are and what I want to do. And for me to be able to keep the pleasure and joy in my work, which is one of my top goals, is that I want to
Mm.
love working. I want to stop when I don't, right? So for now,
Yes.
a goal is that I want in the mornings to wake up and say, oh my gosh, I get to do this again. This is so
Yes.
fun. And it's because who you're doing it with are good fit, or perfect fit clients. And so if you just go with that in mind, I think it's helpful.
So, so powerful. And I think one of the greatest skill sets that we can have in our business and in our life is exactly what you said, to have the courage to step on the stage, to share your message, to know that people want to hear it, that it doesn't have to be for anyone. But I think also, and I would love for you to kind of dive into this a little bit, is having the courage to have really hard conversations. And I coach on this a lot with my women in business and leadership mastermind. And, it's something that I still to this day have to like buckle up for when I'm about to have a hard conversation. But those are so important. And there's a quote that I've heard, and it's like, if there's a conversation that's in your mind that you're avoiding or ignoring right now, it's probably the most important thing that you need to do is have that conversation. And you can teach people how to have courageous conversations and how to have the courage to speak their truth. And what is the foundation of that?
Yeah. Oh, there's, we are just about to release a video program, an on-demand video training program around this very topic. We're 2 weeks away from that launch. And so it's perfect for us. So in just a short time, what I would say is the first thing we have to do is recontextualize or reframe conflict to begin with. You were so right in that quote that you heard, that if it's on your mind, if it's in your awareness frequently, it's important. It's there because it's important. And what if we could not dread that? What if I told you that I've heard that relationships are not growing, and they're certainly not growing in a positive way or expanding into their potential, if they do not experience some conflict? Here's what they're getting at. If you're in a relationship at work, at home, friends, and you're not experiencing conflict, it means that you have no difference of opinion. You don't have any different perspectives. You don't have any different viewpoints. And so it's harmonious, but there's no growth because there's nothing to expand your awareness or your understandings or your interpretations. So the best relationships are not the relationships without conflict. The best relationships are relationships with conflict that have a way of managing that conflict in a really healthy way. So we're actually not looking for relationships without differences of opinion. We're looking for, how do we build our skill set so that we eagerly go into those conversations because we know we can do it well. And it turns out, Allison, it's not as hard as we think, but the work starts here. If you and I are in conflict, let's say we work together and something you do is not up to the standards I think we should be meeting, and I'm thinking about it a lot, but I value you. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want you to be upset with me. I don't want you to start crying. I don't want all of those things that we dread. And so I have a choice. I can either shove it down, pretend it doesn't matter to me. And I just retain all of that negative energy, which is not healthy and good in my opinion. And so then I never upset you, right? But we also never grow together because I do that and make that choice. We never grow. And, or my other choice is to find a way to approach you that is healthy for both of us and allows room for both of us to explore it. So what we do is we help people assess internally, why does this matter to me? How can I come into this with no judgment of Allison? But my only goal is to clarify what choices I see available for us, and invite Allison to step into whichever choice makes sense for her. But she never gets to step into any of those if I don't draw them out. And so the first thing we do is we work internally. How do I step out of the victim role that Allison is, bothering me, or she's slacking on the job and I've got to pick up her slack, or or I'm the victim. We live, would you agree, Allison, in a world that is fraught with people who think in a victim mindset.
Yes.
The most disempowered place to be. It's a terrible place to speak from into conflict. So the much more empowered, stronger place to speak into conflict is to come from a place where there are no victims. I'm not a victim, and you're not a victim, even if you don't know it. I hold the space for you that you're not. That Allison is not a victim. Allison has full choice. She can make any decision she wants. All I want to do is make sure Allison knows what my boundaries are and why those are important to me, and what the choices are as we work together. And then I leave it to Allison to choose whatever's, and I respect whatever Allison chooses from her own place. And so I free her up to make her own choices. I go in with non-judgment. So all of that's internal work. We do have a little 4-step process for the conversation, and that's probably a much longer podcast. But here's the rub. I could give you the 4-step process. And as a matter of fact, Allison, before we leave today, I will make available a Courageous Conversations formula sheet, the support sheet, available to everyone. They can have it, print it, use it. It's my gift. But I could give you that right now. And if you used it from a weak emotional platform, it would fail every time. But if I contend that if you use this simple formula for the actual conversation from a strong emotional, where you do not hold judgment, where you feel confident, where you realize what your role is in this conversation, and you come from an empowered standpoint, and from love, really from love. When you come from that standpoint, the formula will work every time. Every time.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'll share it. And what's cool about the sheet is on the left is the emotion, is how you strengthen your emotional platform. And on the right is the formula for the conversation. So it's really the work I'm most passionate about right now.
Oh man, that's
Because,
so powerful.
it helps women, and anyone really, men too, in this, whether they're doing it one-on-one in relationships, or whether they're standing on a stage and somebody in the audience brings conflict in the form of a question or a challenge. The stuff is the same. I still have to speak to that person in my audience in front of everyone else from a non-judgmental, non-threatening, strong emotional stability. And then I just have to use a few techniques. I have to find out what are their goals, what do they want, what is their opinion, and then I dance with it. But yeah, it's doable. It's actually doable. And that skill in business and life, I think, is one of the most important skills we could. My husband is a retired middle school teacher. And when he heard my speech on Courageous Conversations, he said, I wish my students had to take a mandatory class in this. Because I think if we could teach them in 6th grade how to do this, we would launch a very different workforce.
Oh my gosh, yes. You've looked at the work of Judith Glaser with conversational intelligence. And I up until that point, I didn't really think about how important conversations were. Like, they're excruciating, they can be exciting, they can be pleasurable, but really like that kind of foundation, she says, is like our organizations are a result of our relationships, and our relationships are a result of our conversations. And so if your whole organization is not having conversations, well, you don't have good relationships and you don't have a synergistic team. And so I see this all the time with, especially because I coach so many women, business owners, they have to have hard conversations all the time. And when we can't do that, it's crippling us really in our own business and life success. And so one of the things that I absolutely love about that framework is that in the research and the work that I've done, a system's it's not enough most of the time. Like a system is exactly what you need to know. Step 1, step 2, step 3. It's so helpful. It makes things easy. You can remember it. But when you don't have the system figured out and the mindset figured out, or that emotional piece
Yes,
figured out, then the system doesn't work.
it doesn't.
And so I love that you bring forward that emotional component. Like, how do we kind of bolster ourselves into like showing up as the woman we want to be during this conversation and follow that framework? Oh, so powerful.
It really is. And it's so true that, even if when we say the term hard conversations, we have to have hard conversations. What if we reframe that and said, we have to have these rich conversations. We have to have these important conversations. But you see how quickly we go to hard conversations or tough conversations. It's this societal definition that these conversations are hard, they're tough, they're bad, they're going to be they're not going to end well, likely not going to end well, and boy, I've got to lay down the line. I think that's the kind of thing that we can reframe that to say, I bless this because without it, I don't get to practice. I don't get to grow. I don't get to stretch me, not to mention what they will gain from the conversation. But even if they gained nothing, even if I didn't move the marker 1 inch from their perspective, even if they did stomp away and say, I'm never speaking to you again, I got to grow. I got to grow because of this opportunity. So it really is reframing that. I mean, how many conversations have we all had that we thought, oh, we just postponed it and postponed it and postponed it, delayed it. And then we finally had it. And afterwards we thought, that went better than I thought. Like I should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like, they totally got it. Or, so they don't always do, but a lot of times they do. And so I would just encourage the two of us and everyone listening to just, every time you hear yourself talking about conversations or conflict in this way, just think about the reframe, because your body, your mind, your emotions all shift when you reframe it to a more to a blessing and a gift rather than a curse and a have to. Yeah.
Yes, I get to have this conversation and I get to grow from it. And somebody told me this recently too about negotiation. I think when we're in business, we're negotiating a lot, and that is a lot of conversation. Like, this is my boundary. This is what I want. This is what I would expect. And in negotiation, if you don't say what you want and need, you don't hold your boundary. This person said, well, there was no deal in the first place. Like if you end up just kind of acquiescing and saying, okay, fine, I'm not going to speak up. There really was no deal, because this was a one-sided arrangement. And so I think it's so important to really remember that we're not losing anything by having this conversation. We're not losing anything. We're actually gaining so much by having the courage to speak our truth. And I love that you teach people to speak like their truth and their greatness and their gifts from so many different capacities. And so you're so right. Conversation is such your gift, because we get to do this from stage, having the courage to do it from stage, having the courage to do it in our interpersonal relationships, having the courage to do it in our business. And I know that this skill set, we should be taught this in schools. We should all be taught how to do this, because it can transform our lives.
I just had a client conversation. The office manager heard me speak and wanted the leadership coaching and communications coaching in her practice. They're, an oral surgery practice. They have several locations. And but the owner had not seen me. And so she convinced him. He wrote a big check. We got on our first meeting, and I said, so it's so good to meet you. So thrilled that Sarah's brought us into your practice, and we're very much looking forward to training your team. And he said, I said, well, how are you guys feeling about this? And he said, well, I'm actually already really regretting that I ever wrote this check. That was the first word out of my new client's mouth. And so it doesn't matter how long you've been in business. And I had that happened to me 20 years ago, I would have just died inside. And when it happened 2 weeks ago, I smiled inside because what made me think of it was when you talked about negotiations. I took a negotiation class in college, and I don't remember much from that class, but I remember one thing for sure, that if you enter into any kind of a conflict or negotiation and you can't see yourself walking away empty-handed and being okay, you're actually the one at the disadvantage. You're at a disadvantage. If you go into it needing this relationship, needing this pay raise, needing this client, needing to win this argument, if you go in needing something to be okay, you're at a disadvantage. But you hold all the cards if you don't. If you can see yourself walking away empty-handed and being fine. And that's exactly immediately where my brain went. And so I said to him, I'm so glad that you shared that with me. If that's how you're feeling, let's explore that. Can you tell me more about that? And so, of course, he did. I don't think it's really going to help. I don't think it's exactly what we need. And I said, well, what is it that you want to be different? Well, and he had a long list of complaints and a long list of, and I said, well, how badly would you like for that to be different? Well, I want it badly. And I said, so you have a couple of choices. You can keep doing what you're doing, and it only stands to reason that you'll get more of that. Or you can decide to take a step in a different direction. We can't change them, but we can help you to make, as their leader, to make some shifts and speak differently. And then you have an opportunity to receive, it doesn't guarantee it, but you have an opportunity to receive some different results. And I would love to help you on that journey, but I can't want it more than you do. I can't want it than you do. So you have to decide. And if you decide you don't, then no harm, no foul. We'll return the money and we're all good. Or you can decide that you really do want it to be different. And that's what we do. And so he was like, all right, well then let's, but if you don't panic, if you don't, like that was somebody throwing a hard, axe down on the, a hammer down on the nail, right? And I just didn't, it's that respond versus react. Respond versus react. And so all of that goes in that, whether you're on stage or you're talking to a client or a patient or a colleague, having the discipline, it really is an inside out job to manage.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Your life. Yeah.
100%. Wow. What tools. I am so inspired by this conversation. And I know that so many women that I work with, women in our industry, can benefit from learning how to have these tools and this inside work and have these courageous and valuable and rich conversations. I'm never going to call them hard conversations anymore. But I want to wrap up with our final question that is sponsored by Care Credit, both of our dear friends who we love, who just dove headfirst into supporting this podcast on empowering women in our industry. And I would love for you to finish this statement for me. Okay. This is the theme of the podcast. It's super fun. The statement is, women are worthy of, and you finish the sentence.
Women are worthy of peace, respect, and a personal and professional life filled with joy. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And I just feel so inspired, even from your story of you want to wake up every day and love what you're doing. And I can see that a lot of the ways that you teach others to show up really in situations allows for you to do that in your life as well. So thank you so much, Katherine, for being such an inspiration to our industry, outside of our industry. You've been a huge mentor to me. I just love you. And I just am so grateful for what you do for all of the people in dentistry. So if people want to work more closely with you, have your support, how can they get a hold of you? And I will definitely put this in the show notes. If you're listening to this and driving, it will be there for you to click on.
Oh, fantastic. Well, if you'd like help with patient interactions, with team communication, especially leadership communication and conflict, or with getting yourself on a stage, or training other people in workshops, then visit our website, which is LionSpeak, LionSpeak.net, not .com, .net. And you can explore the programs. In every one of those sectors, we have sort of do-it-yourself, programs, either video or audio training programs on demand. But we also have private, virtual, and in-person coaching and workshops and those kinds of things. Also, Allison, when we launch Courageous Conversations, the video program, in a few weeks, we will be launching a community around Courageous Conversations. And it's going to be some small group coaching opportunities. And we already have some pilot programs in the works, and they are loving it. So I'm super excited about launching that community for people who want to get better at having courageous conversations in their life and work. So we're super excited. We do have, and I think you're, Allison, on our list. I have a Monday morning stretch. It's a blog that comes out every Monday morning. I've been doing it for almost 20 years, every Monday morning. And it's just some musings and some thoughts. And so one easy way to just sort of get acquainted is to shoot us an email at info@lionspeak.net and just let us know you'd like to be on the Monday morning stretch. And we're happy to put you, and then you'll receive the announcements of new products and services. But yeah, and also I do want to share those resources. I will send you a link, Allison, that people can just go to that link and download the Courageous Conversations support sheet and some other tools. I wrote an article on Courageous Conversations, so all of that's in that.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah. So
thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Everyone go and connect with Katherine. You will learn so much from her. And I just want to thank you again for being on here today and sharing your wisdom. And we will see you all on another episode of the Clearly Worthy podcast.